At the office door, they gave me 60 minutes to leave for a new hire, but I spent 6 years quietly rewriting their future. The CEO begged, "Madeline, come back." Anything, while Vera screamed, "You can't." I lost everything to their arrogance. Good luck with the shutdown. They told me to vacate my office within the hour for the new hire. I didn't argue. I didn't even blink. But as I packed, I triggered a plan I'd been building in secret for almost 7 years. 43 minutes into the emergency audit, after the stock nosedived and the boardroom turned to panic, they finally called me. But I didn't ask for my job back. I demanded something else, something that would bury them all. My name is Clara Dorsey. Until this morning, I was the head of regulatory integrity at Eastmark Industrial Systems, headquartered in Toledo, Ohio. It was Monday, 9:02 a.m., when the box showed up. It wasn't the usual flimsy cardboard. This was a heavy-duty white banker's box, the kind that screams corporate courtesy while gutting you in silence. Lena Spivey from HR placed it at the edge of my desk like she was laying flowers at a grave. "Clara," she said, rehearsed sympathy coding every syllable, "leadership has decided to realign departments. Your office will be reassigned to the new Director of Operations Strategy." My office. The glass-walled corner, suite overlooking the Maumee River. The one I'd earned navigating the post-merger chaos after Eastmark swallowed Dina Core. The one wired with embedded audio triggers I had installed myself during the redesign. I looked past Lena. Framed perfectly in the doorway stood Mallory Keene, new Stanford MBA, new blazer, old money. She wasn't looking at me. She was measuring the wall space for her diplomas. They were expecting outrage. They had Lena there like security detail, braced for a meltdown. But I didn't give them the satisfaction. I tapped my ID badge against the terminal, not to log in, but to log out. The system clock stamped my exit at 9:03 a.m. "I'll need an hour," I said. "Of course. Take your time," Lena stammered. They didn't realize what that hour meant. It meant they had just activated me. Behind the false panel in the cabinet was a biometric safe. I opened it with my thumbprint. Inside, 12 leather-bound black notebooks, each tagged by year. These weren't company records. These were my records, the real ones. Page after page filled with names, patterns, psychological tics of every inspector who mattered. I knew them better than their wives. I reached into the photo frame of my sister and me on Lake Erie. Hidden inside was a wafer-thin silver square, the key to code lock. That wasn't just a digital signature system, as the execs believed. It was a blockchain time bomb. Everything, every compliance signature, every test log, every unethical shortcut was encoded there. Immutable, undeletable, undeniable. And it was all coming with me. My phone buzzed. A calendar ping. 2:00 p.m. site audit. Federal Safety Commission Deputy Director Lionel Graves arriving. They were actually throwing Mallory to him. Graves didn't believe in slides or sentiment. He was a hawk. And now, they were handing him an intern wrapped in wool. It almost felt unfair. Almost. Then came the text from CEO Drew Halpern. "Clara, let's keep this professional." Classic Drew. He preferred optics over outcomes. A second ping, company-wide email. From board chair Miranda Vale to everyone, but copied to Mallory. "Excited to welcome our new leadership in compliance strategy. Mallory Keene brings the kind of data-first, modernized approach Eastmark needs. We're thrilled to move beyond legacy systems." Legacy systems. They didn't know that their so-called legacy was the only reason they weren't already buried in federal fines. But they were about to find out. At 10:00 m sharp, I sealed the box. On the side, I wrote 4 words with a black marker. Phase 1, vacated asset. I walked past Mallory. She was already on the phone with facilities, asking for a standing desk. She didn't see me. She never would. I stepped into the elevator. Cool steel closed around me. They could have the office. They didn't realize I had just walked out with the entire foundation of their house, and I was going to set it on fire. I didn't go home. I didn't go to a bar. I drove 1 level up in the parking deck across from the Eastmark Tower, parked in reverse, and killed the engine. I had a direct line of sight to the executive loop. Then I waited. At exactly 2:01 p.m., 3 black SUVs rolled up. Not tinted like wannabe VIPs, government issue. They pulled straight up to the front, blocking the valet lane like they owned the street. They did. Deputy Director Lionel Graves stepped out. Silver hair, gray suit, and a presence that made grown men flinch. I recognized the briefcase in his hand. It meant they were here to audit, not consult. And I knew exactly what he was about to find. I waited 15 minutes. No call, no text. I imagined Mallory walking him through a slide deck on data-forward compliance metrics, while Graves waited for someone who actually understood the floor layout. By 2:19 p.m., my phone rang. It was Lena from HR. I didn't answer. 10 seconds later again. Still didn't answer. Then the text. Clara, please, he won't begin the audit. He's demanding to speak to you personally. Now they were sweating. I gave it 90 seconds. Then I called. Lena, I said flatly. Oh, thank God, Clara, he's here. He's refusing to even open the inspection logs. He says you are his only point of contact. I kept my voice calm. Inform Deputy Director Graves that as of 9:03 a.m., my employment was terminated. Miss Keene is now his liaison. I'm no longer authorized to participate in federal regulatory operations. But Clara, he says if you're not in the room by 3:00 p.m., he'll red tag the entire facility. Shut it down for obstruction. I'm not authorized, I repeated. Good luck, Lena. Then I hung up. 3 minutes later, my phone lit up again. Drew Halpern, CEO, I answered on the first ring. Where are you? Garage. Level 4. I'm coming down. He didn't even argue. 5 minutes later, he came sprinting around the corner of the garage, his hair blown back, dress shoes scraping the concrete. He spotted my car and practically collapsed against the driver's window. I messed up, he said. We all did. No, I replied. You didn't mess up. You tried to cut out the brain and leave the body walking. We need you back now. I'll give you the office. A raise, a new title, just fix this. I paused. I don't want the office, Drew. I want 4 things. Anything. 1. I want final veto authority on every operational safety and compliance protocol. Not advisory, binding, he blinked. Okay, done. 2. I report directly to the board, not to you, not to legal, direct to the audit committee. Fine. 3. I want triple the current compliance tech budget, discretionary use. No oversight. Triple. Is that a problem? No. And 4. I leaned forward, my voice lowering. Mallory Keene will be reassigned to junior analyst. No corner office, no reports. She will serve as my direct assistant for 1 year. That's excessive. She nearly walked your company into a federal shutdown before lunch. If she's staying, she's learning from the ground up. He swallowed hard. She won't go for that. Then she can go somewhere else. He nodded slowly, then pulled out his phone, put it on speaker. Miranda, he said when she picked up, it's Drew, Clara has terms. He repeated every word, silence on the line. Then she wants to humiliate the girl. I cut in. No, Miranda, I want her to understand. This is compliance. It's not about PowerPoints. It's about keeping people alive. More silence. Then, fine, tell her the board accepts the terms. At 2:54 p.m., I walked through the lobby. The receptionist's eyes widened. Upstairs, the conference room was dead silent. Graves was pacing like a panther. Mallory was pale, frozen mid-sentence. Miranda was on video, tight-lipped. I didn't look at any of them. I walked straight to the coffee station, dropped a single sugar cube into Graves's untouched cup, and placed it in front of him. Then I turned. Apologies for the delay. There was an administrative misalignment. It's been corrected. Graves didn't even glance at Mallory. He slid the shutdown order into his briefcase, unsigned, then pointed to the seat beside him. Let's begin. We hit the factory floor first. Packaging line. I saw my guy, Ruben, line manager for 15 years, spot me. He gave a barely perceptible nod. I told him loudly to reverse the usual sop. Run the batch seal first, then the log sync. A clear violation, Mallory stammered. But the compliance flowchart. I wrote the flowchart, I said. Watch. 10 minutes later, Graves's team found the breach. Minor, technical. Easily corrected. He didn't flinch, he smiled. An audit team that finds nothing keeps digging. A team that finds one harmless, correctable error, they go home. I handed Graves exactly what he needed, enough to write his report and save face. We moved on. Next stop, chemical storage. One of Graves's analysts flagged outdated labeling on the drums. Mallory looked like she might faint. I stepped forward, knocked on the plastic barrel. Hollow. Empty. Our new model is just-in-time composition. The real data is on the mixer terminal, updated daily. They checked, confirmed. Graves nodded. Again, no shutdown. Back upstairs, the room was buzzing. Audit complete. 1 citation. 0 violations. Eastmark survived. And I hadn't even opened my briefcase yet. Miranda tried to smooth it over. Clearly, there was a misunderstanding this morning, she said. I didn't answer. I just looked directly at her on the screen. 9 a.m. tomorrow, my office, full executive restructuring briefing. She didn't blink. She knew better. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The next morning, I arrived early. The scent of Mallory's perfume still lingered in the air like the ghost of a failed coup. She had cleared out. Her standing desk gone. The whiteboard full of buzzwords erased. All that remained was a single Starbucks cup on the windowsill and a crushed ego somewhere on the 27th floor. By 7 a.m., Mallory herself appeared at my door. No makeup, no confidence. Her sharp blazer had been replaced by a wrinkled cardigan. She was holding 2 coffees. Black, she said, hesitating. 1 sugar cube. I asked Hank from maintenance. I didn't respond. I nodded at the guest desk near the wall. You'll sit there until I say otherwise. She placed the coffee gently on my desk and took her seat. Your first task, I said, booting my terminal, is to pull inspection logs from the last 6 quarters. I want them sorted by inspector, violation category, and remediation time. Mallory's mouth parted. That's nearly 18 months of logs. 21, actually, I corrected her. There was an unannounced audit in Q2 that triggered retroactive entries. She didn't argue. She just nodded and began typing. I didn't care how long it took. I didn't need the data. I had it memorized. I wanted to see how she worked, if she'd skim or dig, if she'd look for patterns or hide behind formulas. By noon, she looked up. Her eyes rimmed red. Something's wrong, she said quietly. The remediation times, they're inconsistent. Identical violations resolved days apart. Different supervisors, same SOPs, but the response varies wildly. Continue. And some entries, she hesitated, were manually altered. No signatures, just timestamps with initials. Unverified, I leaned forward. That was the crack I needed. What else? She swallowed. There's a pattern. Looks like someone was bypassing your final sign-off on certain corrective actions, especially during late-night shift logs. Who? I traced the edits to admin credentials tied to IT contractors, brought in under executive authority. My eyes narrowed. What contractors? Her face paled as she looked down at her tablet. Slate Spark. There it was, the real virus. Slate Spark wasn't just some third-party compliance vendor. They were Miranda's backdoor into the system. They had been pushing an AI-led platform for months, one that eliminated human bottlenecks. Translation: a platform that let execs rewrite safety protocols in real time with zero accountability. I didn't flinch. I'd suspected as much. What I hadn't expected was Mallory's next confession. They contacted me before I applied here. I turned to her slowly. They pitched me on joining, said Eastmark was ripe for modernization. They offered me a silent advisory contract, contingent on me becoming CCO. They even had a proposal ready. She waited for me to explode. I didn't. Did you sign anything? No, I didn't commit. I told them I'd consider it after onboarding. I nodded once. You're not going to Cleveland anymore, I said. Mallory blinked. I'm not. No, you're going to the upcoming board meeting. You're going to sit in the back. No phone. No laptop, just a pen and pad. You'll take detailed notes, every look, every whisper, every hesitation. You'll watch power move in real time. I understand, she said. No arrogance, just focus. She was learning. That evening, a secure message hit my inbox from Leo Tran, our quietest legal counsel. Drew Halpern signed 3 SOP adjustments last quarter. All bypassed your authority. All lacked bylaw 6.12 sign-off. The metadata points to directives from SlateSpark consultants. This is an actionable violation, awaiting your move. I closed the message. I didn't move. Not yet. Calling this now would trigger internal investigations, press leaks, board chaos. The stock would tank. Miranda would play the victim. Drew would play dumb. They'd survive. But if I waited, if I let them dig their own grave just a little deeper, I could bury them permanently. No courtroom, no headlines, just oblivion. But for that, I needed one thing, an external trigger. At 11:24 p.m., I sent a single text to Deputy Director Graves. Sir, I believe Eastmark is just the beginning. I'm seeing patterns, similar procedural manipulation across multiple firms using the same AI compliance vendor. I'd like to brief the commission. 10 minutes later, his reply, bring everything. There's an industry-wide safety summit next week. You're presenting first. I stared at the screen. The fuse was lit. SlateSpark thought they were playing the game, but I had just changed the entire board. 3 days later, I stood before Eastmark's board. Not the usual conference room. The vaulted one. The high-ceiling, mahogany-paneled bunker on the 30th floor reserved for mergers, mass layoffs, or CEO terminations. This wasn't a meeting. This was a reckoning. Miranda sat at the head, flanked by two smug-looking SlateSpark consultants in matching charcoal suits. Across from her, Drew looked like someone had dragged him out of a fever dream. I sat alone at the far end. Mallory, she was seated behind me, legal pad in hand, silent, watching. Miranda opened with her pitch. Recent events have exposed the need to move past personality-based systems. It's time for structure, automation, and reliability. SlateSpark offers a platform that eliminates risk by eliminating subjective variables. Then one of the suits stepped up. He clicked through a shiny deck full of meaningless jargon. Bias-free workflows, adaptive oversight, automated rectification protocols. I waited until he finished. Then I stood. I have my own presentation, Miranda sighed. Clara, I held up a single hand. You voted me back in, this comes with the package. She fell silent. I handed each board member a sealed envelope. Don't open it yet. The screen behind me lit up. Slide 1, a simple bar graph. Regulatory risk across our industry over the last 24 months, I said. Each bar is a competitor. Red means violations. Yellow means fines. Gray means surprise audits. I clicked. A sixth bar appeared. Eastmark. Our gray bar, nearly non-existent. Our red and yellow, barely a blip. This isn't luck, I said. It's trust. I built personal credibility with every regulator who matters. Graves doesn't surprise us because I call him before he even considers it. Miranda scoffed. Which is exactly the problem. That's not compliance, that's cronyism. I ignored her. Now open the envelopes. The rustling was loud. Inside, printed emails, expense reports, encrypted texts. All of them from our competitors, Clearform Systems, Macromill, Dynacore, engaged in shady payoffs, kickbacks, hush contracts. Bribes. These are the real modernization strategies, I said coldly. This is what happens when you remove the people and trust algorithms to keep us clean. One of the SlateSpark suits turned pale. These were obtained from whistleblowers, I added, and traced through real-time metadata logged into my system. None of this was hacked, all of it was offered. Where did you even get this? One director asked, stunned. Relationships, I said. Real ones? I clicked to the final slide. Our choice is simple. Cooperate with the investigation, offer our model as the industry standard, or stand with the companies about to be raided. That room, full of sharks in tailored suits, suddenly felt very, very cold. Then I turned the knife. You should also know that SlateSpark is under quiet federal review for acting as a compliance proxy, removing human oversight so executives can override safety rules without documentation. That landed like a bomb. Miranda stood furious. That's slander. No, I said calmly. It's already in motion. Graves is opening with it at next week's summit. You'll see the subpoenas soon enough. Silence. Drew finally spoke. So what's your proposal? 3 points, I said, placing one final document on the table. Compliance becomes a sovereign executive branch, equal to operations and finance. I, Clara Dorsey, retain final veto over any safety-related decision, equipment, personnel, budget, or software. An independent ethics committee is created. It reports only to me. Miranda slammed her hand on the table. This is extortion. No, I said quietly. This is a firewall, and I'm the last one who knows how to keep this place from burning. Vote came 24 hours later. Approved, all of it. Miranda abstained, her last move of defiance. It was over, or so I thought. Because the next morning, SlateSpark filed a lawsuit against Eastmark and against me personally. They weren't going down quietly. They accused me of torpedoing a legitimate contract, of using outdated, personality-driven compliance models to protect a regime of influence and intimidation. They called me an obstructionist, a relic, And to make it personal, they leaked a white paper, a 30-page takedown. No names, just references. Executive X, compliance relic, legacy barrier. Every dig was aimed at me, but they weren't done. Because 2 days later, an anonymous tip hit every major outlet. What about the Q2 paint line failure? The email was short, devastating. It claimed that 15 months ago, Eastmark had ignored a critical pressure alarm and knowingly shipped defective product. And it pointed the finger squarely at me. Problem was, the tip wasn't entirely false. The alarm had triggered. The shutdown had been overridden. The product had shipped. And the waiver required to restart the line, it was signed by Drew. Not by me. He had skipped protocol. And if I tried to clear myself with the logs, I'd expose him. It was checkmate. Until Mallory walked into my office, holding her tablet like it was a detonator. "I have an idea," she said, "but you're not going to like it." Mallory laid the tablet on my desk, her voice low and steady. "We don't deny the Q2 failure." I stared at her. "We use it," she said. I raised an eyebrow. "Make it the centerpiece of the upcoming ethics retreat. Lead with it. Admit the fault. Own the gap in the process. Then show them how your new structure makes it impossible to happen again." I didn't respond. She kept going. "We make it a case study. We turn their bullet into your shield." I sat back in my chair. She wasn't wrong. We'd be walking into a room filled with legal sharks, angry board members, and two very nervous Slate Spark consultants. Vera, Miranda, would be front row. Drew would be forced to sit beside her. And they'd all be expecting a defensive scramble. Instead, we'd hand them the smoking gun and then show them how we redesigned the trigger. I nodded slowly. "All right, but we're adding one more thing." I reached into my archive folder and pulled up a video file. It was from a board meeting 6 months ago, the one where Bylaw 6.12 had been amended. In the video, Miranda, confident, dismissive, had waved it off. "It's just a formality. We'll have Clara sign it later." They never did. They knew what I was. They gave me the power and then forgot they had to actually respect it. Now they'd pay for that mistake. The day of the ethics retreat arrived. A private facility outside the city. No windows, no phones, no reporters. At the check-in table, Mallory and Noelle, my restored assistant, collected every device. Phones, watches, tablets, everything went into sealed bags. Inside, the atmosphere was tense. Miranda sat in the front, arms crossed, Slate Spark's general counsel on one side, their lead consultant on the other. Drew looked like he hadn't slept in a week. At exactly 9 a.m., I stepped to the podium. Behind me, the massive screen lit up. 2 words in black text. "Accountability wins." I let it hang for 10 seconds, then I spoke. "The anonymous email you received was partially correct." The room froze. There was an alarm. There was a deviation. There was a shipment. Murmurs rippled. "But here's what the email left out." I clicked the remote. Slide 1, the pressure report. Slide 2, engineering analysis. Slide 3, the log, a single green signature, Drew Halpern. And here's what that signature was missing. I clicked again. A big blank space where my signature should have been. Bylaw 6.12 required dual sign-off. Drew had skipped it. Now the room was silent. Miranda leaned forward like she could will the screen away. "This is not a failure of people," I said. "It's a failure of structure. This is what happens when the CEO can override compliance. It's why I demanded, and the board approved, the new system." Click. Slide 4, the new chain of authority. Slide 5, the ethics committee. Slide 6, a lock symbol over the words "Operational Continuity Waiver requires dual approval." I turned to face the room fully. This will never happen again, not because we wish it won't, but because it can't. The air cracked with tension, then I dropped the hammer. "Now, one more thing." I played the video. Miranda's voice filled the room. "We'll have Clara sign it later. It's just a formality." And with that, the room turned. Even Slate Spark's attorneys looked stunned. The whole board had knowingly passed an incomplete process. It wasn't one man's shortcut. It was a cultural rot. When the session ended, no one moved. Miranda stormed out without a word. Drew sat, slack-jawed, like he had witnessed his own eulogy. Mallory, she stayed behind, quietly closing her notes. "You were right," she said. "Accountability wins." The next day, Slate Spark's lawsuit was dropped. Officially, due to reevaluation of priorities. Unofficially, they knew they were about to be audited hard, and I was leading the audit. The Department of Safety Standards publicly thanked Eastmark for its cooperation. The press hailed our approach as the Dorsey model. At 6 p.m., Mallory appeared at my door. "I know my apprenticeship is ending," she said, her voice firm but respectful. "But I want to stay. I want to work for you. As your permanent deputy." I studied her. No more entitlement, just fire. "You can stay," I said, "but my deputies aren't measured by how clean their reports are." She tilted her head. "Then how?" I smiled. "By how many regulators trust them enough to give them their cell phone number." She smiled back. "Understood." But the war wasn't over. That night, another anonymous message hit my desk. "Slate Spark isn't done, they're just rebranding. And Miranda is helping." Below that, a list of shell companies, a new alias, a new board proposal. They were trying to evolve the threat. I closed the file, took a deep breath, and began planning my next move. They tried to erase me. Instead, I rewrote the rules.